Brought to you by Charity Mobile, the phone company that supports life and family. 5% of your monthly plan price goes to your favorite charity. Buy the way you believe at CharityMobile.com and use promo code TRADITION.
Do you remember the story of the blasphemous statue of the Virgin Mary on display in church property in the Diocese of Linz, Germany? This happened last summer. Somebody built a statue of Our Lady depicting her with a whole lot of her body exposed, we'll say, clearly in late stage of pregnancy, giving birth to our Lord. And it was a statue that was in graphic detail, incredibly graphic detail. And the expression on her face was one of pain. She was depicted experiencing labor pains, which is heresy, because Our Lady was spared the stain of original sin by a special grace of our Lord. And as a consequence of that, no labor pains when she birthed our Lord. Aquinas describes that process as being like light passing through a window. Okay. If you see a Hollywood depiction or a Christian film production that depicts the nativity and depicts birth pains, turn it off. You're watching heresy. One drop of poison will ruin anything. But I believe it was in a cathedral in Germany in Linz back last summer, a bishop allowed a statue like this to be placed in a prominent art display. We have an update on that story now, because what happened is when they put that there, a Catholic man who remained unknown severely damaged the statue. He did it to defend Our Lady's honor and her dignity and the grave offense at her Immaculate Heart. We have an update now. Apparently, the person responsible for destroying the statue when that happened has been apprehended and could face serious jail time. Yes, the bishops are going after the man who defended the honor of Our Lady, but not for defending the honor of Our Lady. They don't go after him for that. Instead, he said mean things on social media, and he's not going to face the consequences, because it's Europe we're talking about, where free speech doesn't exist. And this is a cautionary tale, especially if you are watching this as a Catholic in Europe, to be very careful on how you talk about such things. And we very nearly became a country like that ourselves here. Go to cath.net, the sort of a life site news, but a little more moderate version of that out of Austria and Germany. And we'll skip past the artwork because it's pretty grotesque with the headline, Beheaded Linz Statue of Mary. 31-year-old Catholic must appear in court in March. One of the things you're going to hear when I go over this article, nobody who saw the statue thought it was a good idea. Nobody who saw the statue thought it was a redeemable statue. Even non-Christians looked at it and thought it was, and were horrified. And don't even ask what would happen if you were to do some equivalent display for that other new to Europe faith that's really growing quickly. The followers of the crescent moon and their false prophet. We already know the answer to that. But the thing about this is this. The powers that should not be will do anything they want to Christianity, but nothing to the others, because the others are against Christians. So that's okay. So they'll put up with all sorts of their really horrifying beliefs on things. Because the powers that should not be in Europe, including many of the bishops, hate the faith and hate our blessed Lord and hate Our Lady. They hate everything about Christianity. Here are the details of the article. Quote, the excitement surrounding the beheaded statue of the Virgin Mary in Linz, which caused much protest from Catholics last summer, will continue in 2025. According to a report in the Krone, a 31-year-old Viennese man is now to be charged in March for allegedly praising the destruction of the controversial statue of the Virgin Mary in Linz Cathedral. According to the media report, he accused of inciting people to commit punishable acts. It was originally said that 2 perps had been identified. However, the public prosecutor's office announced after a few weeks that this was not the case and that nothing could be proven against the 2 of them. However, proceedings are now to be brought against the 31-year-old anyway. There was a criminal complaint against him for inciting people to commit punishable acts. He described the act as great on social media such as YouTube, Telegram, and Twitter, and praised the perp as an unknown Austrian hero. A spokeswoman for public prosecutor's office confirmed to the Krone. According to the Austrian criminal law, one can also be charged if one approves of a crime committed intentionally in a way that is likely to outrage the general sense of justice. Theoretically, up to 2 years in prison could be threatened. In the Krone itself, the verdict of most readers is clear. This is not art. This is cheap, vulgar activism. The church should be sued because it was placed in a church. This has nothing to do with art. I am not religious, says one person, but such an obscene and provocative figure has no place in a church. And there are many others like it. And mostly quote. That is the response of people who have their sense of faith smacked around by bishops. Okay? Let's bring this back home. For the last week or two, we've been talking about the bishops, mostly in America. This story here is in Germany, but you see how all of this is connected. The bishops in America crying over their loss of Caesar's dirty silver. Even among the better bishops. Remember how I showed you Archbishop Corleone? His diocese received $24 million of the government's money for this. It's the same thinking. The faith, most of them have abandoned the faith. Maybe, on paper, they're still Catholic. They hold their offices still. But they have become managers of an NGO. They never name the person. And I want that they're going after here with the court system. I wonder if it's Alexander Schugel. He's not the one who did that. But I did see him last summer praising this on Twitter. From what I hear, he had gone onto some German language YouTube channels and praised it. I wonder if this is him. They never name him. And the reason it's interesting that they don't name him is, if you're not aware, Alexander Schugel comes from like old nobility in Austria. That might be why they're not naming him. And if he comes from old nobility, it could be that he will not face any time for this. But they're still coming after him anyway for praising the destruction of the statue. That's why I think it might be him, that it's not the person who did it, but him. Because he's very high profile in Catholic circles. And his praising of it could be construed to be encouraging others to do the same in the future. All right, folks, thanks very much for tuning in today. Pray for everybody we spoke about today. I'm not here to stir up your anger at any of these bishops or anything we talked about today. Please pray for them. Salvation of souls is the first law of the church. It's the most important thing the church does. It's its primary mission. Its earthly social justice mission is meant to facilitate the salvation of souls. Everything the church does is meant to facilitate the salvation of souls. So please pray for those bishops. Pray for all these other figures we've spoken about. And as always, in general, please remember to pray for the triumph and exaltation and the liberty of Holy Mother Church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.